Okay, so now we kind of jumped a little bit. Uh, we saw the observables and how it can work. Now we're gonna go to a different example. Um, Again, I'm sorry, this is not really like an iteration of what is possible, but kind of wanted to showcase what I've done. So what you see on your lower right screen is left screen is actually an LED strip, and I did hook it up with this this chip, this microcontroller called ESP8266, which given the footprint, it's only about like you know yay big. It actually can do servers. I mean, you could actually hook up a have a web server running on on the um, on the microcontroller. Now, what we're gonna do here is I already hooked up, I already coded up the microcontroller so that it can understand um, input coming in from the web server that's running inside the chip. So if I go to a certain web address with a get call with three query parameters, R, G, and B, I could turn the LED on and off, right? So what I did here is now I've changed the the code so it has three sliders. Upon the change of these sliders, it will uh, culminate in an XCS call to the microcontroller. So there's a couple of things kind of in play here. First thing, I guess we should talk about how we are setting up the proxy, because the proxy is what we need to actually do the thing here. So in the code, we'll be just hitting and doing an access call to /LED, and the setup proxy will. This is again, I'm using create React app, so the script will take on to see if this is 2.0. Setup proxy will be detected inside the source folder, and then it will try and call the endpoint, right? And what we're seeing over here is the actual server that's running in the chip that I just showed you, like right there, you know, at the end of this board. I'm not gonna move the camera because again, it's like a matrix thing. So yeah, that's that. Now, how I've changed the code is basically I start with the app. All right. So what you're seeing here is basically we added three handle functions coming in from the prop. I have these simple components that handle change and setting up an init value. All right. Now the function, we assign it for each RGB like that. These are still in play. Basically the reference part here. Never mind. You're not even seeing this. That's it. Really, there's nothing to it. Oh, really? That's it? How is that even possible? I've not even assigned the values to this. What's going on? But okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this component. Go to definition. So here we are. I'm using recompose. So we have the compose function, adding in the styles from material UI, and then adding in the value with slide value, which is a with state. I'm creating a LED value function to set it, and for the initial value, I'm taking it from the props that you saw before, and then setting up the init value. Setting up the classes, typography with the LED value, and using the Material UI slider. So on change, it actually feeds in two values: the mouse event and the value. Value is the value of the slider, so in this case it would be like 0 comes in. It's decimal, so I round it up, whatever. I make an estimate to convert it to an integer, and then run the set LED value to set the state. Again, that's just for the slider to operate. So this component has its inner state that sets the LED value and drives this slider. At the same time, every time there's a change, it actually runs the handle change with the value. That handle change function is what has been assigned here. Okay, so yeah, it's your standard, again, typical, it's your typical way of setting up a component with a UI interaction with a callback. Now, if you look over here, I did change this a little bit, the observable stream. First of all, now I have the triggers in the front, because triggers is an object, and then I'm doing a spread operation to take in all the observables. So you could just keep on adding more observables to this function. It's creating it. This dot subscriptions change, so it's an it's an array, and the incoming observables, mapping it so that each observable, we push it into this observable. Every single observable does the same thing. It takes it, gets subscribing it. The expectation of each observable is that it'll get a new state with a key value pair, and we set it for this new higher order component. Upon the unmount, we run through all the subscriptions in the array and we unsubscribe. Okay, now let's look at some of the new observables that I created. We have so 3 LED driving observables. These are basically just to track the values that has been changed by the UI component. Right? Every time there's an emit, it creates a stream. Now, why do we do this? Well, it's because of this combine latest. Combine latest is a function from the suite, the RxJS suite that handles the observables. This function actually creates an observable using other observable streams. It might be confusing, but what it does is you have, right now, if you see this, we have at least 3 streams, and every time there's a change on one of these streams, because there will be a change, because remember, the handler function will be used to update the values of behavior subject types of an observable. Now, what this combine latest will do is it'll combine the values of the 3 streams, and this only gets invoked whenever values change. So whenever new values are coming in through one of these 3 observables. So one caveat to this is this starts working only after all the observables have emitted a value at least once. The thing with the behavior subject is, so yeah, anyways, never mind. So the code should emit an initial value for all 3 streams in our case, which it does. So if you load the page, and if I put a debugger here, and turn on the inspector. Oops, not here. Let's stay on the modifier function. So yeah, the last argument is the modifier function. So that's an optional one, but if you wanna massage the data, see, values come in, they come in, and I'm just kind of modifying it so the next downstream I could use it easier. Now I saved it. This kind of load. So what? Oh, that's the G. And you can be sure that, oh, it has been called already. It's been called. What has it been called with? Oh, it's been called with. Oh, called with. Never mind. You just confirmed that, right? So I confirmed that. Oh, called multiple times. 3 times actually. Oh no, it's not 3 times. I did that inside the reduce. That's why it's called 3 times. Anyways, so yeah. Let's look at this function. So we have red, green, and blue coming in. What they're coming in is actually these values, right? Or in these forms. These 3 things come in. Well, what I'm doing is they come in as 3 arguments. I put them into an array and I reduce them so that the end result is 1 argument that has all 3 of these keys and the values. Now, what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to pipe it. I am going to pipe, and pipe is also just another thing where we do the pipe, we use the stream, and then we pipe to further manipulate the data that's coming in down from the stream. This is a RxJS version 6 notation. So inside the pipe, you could tack on whatever manipulating and whatever parsing function. Again, observable. These are all from the RxJS library that you want to add. For instance, right now, if you check the code again, every time the slider changes, right? Every time I drag the mouse, it will trigger the onChange function. That means every single millisecond, every single nanosecond there's a change, it will invoke the handle change. Well, what is handle change? Handle change is one of these, right? These set the next value of those respective observables. In turn, what it'll do is every time there's a change, it will also invoke the combined latest stream. That's problematic because then it'll try to attempt to call the server that's living in that little dinky microcontroller, which essentially will be DDoSing it, and it's not equipped for stuff like that. Whoa, okay, so we use a debouncer. Again, this is from RxJS operators. So what this does is it actually waits. It actually waits, and it never, so it puts a damper on the value. So every time there's a change, there's a change, I tweak, I move around the mouse a lot, but then only after 150 milliseconds, it will trigger. The stream combined latest observable will trigger every, or at the shortest interval is 150 milliseconds that this triggers. Okay. Well, inside the pipe, you actually, the arguments that you add, these manipulating mapping functions, it actually runs sequentially. So the first thing I do is debounce times. The next one I do is map. Again, map is a function. It's a helper function from RxJS operators. What it does is it takes in whatever value is coming in with, right? So this value is basically the value that's been changed here. So this value is an object that has these 3 keys. So every time that comes in, I do an access call ESP8266+LED. Again, from the setup proxy, you see that this is an actual forwarding to the IP address that's serving in the chip. We do a path rewrite, so we take out the /LED, and what's left is this write. The params, this is basically going to be the query parameters, and R with the LED value, LED green, LED blue. Okay. So let's see how it works. Right. So there's something quirky going on with the microcontroller I have, or the LED strip. I think I burned it, or somehow the red pin actually turns the green one. So, and the green one doesn't work. So okay, remember, red will light the green. Blue is blue. Green won't do anything. Okay. Red. It's getting brighter and brighter, right? Maximum value that we send to the endpoint is 1023. Right? See, every time you see that it waits a certain time. Doesn't happen every time I tweak the slider, right? And then here's blue. So even if I go more, yeah, see? So, all right, okay, great, good job.